This lesson will briefly describe the independent clause and will then review various types of sentence fragments and demonstrate how to correct them. The key to not writing fragments is to recognize the difference between complete and incomplete sentences. Complete sentences are made up of an independent clause. A complete sentence has minimally two parts, a subject and a verb. A sentence must also express a complete thought. Such a phrase consisting of a subject and a verb with complete meaning is also called an independent clause. Here's an example. Bill, subject, likes, predicate, money, the direct object. A sentence fragment is an incomplete sentence. Most fragments are missing the subject, the verb, or both. Identifying fragments is sometimes confusing because they may actually contain a subject and a verb. However, these nouns and verbs do not form an independent clause when they follow subordinating conjunctions, adverbs, or relative pronouns. Here's an example of a sentence fragment. After the party starts. After is a subordinating conjunction, party is a subject, and starts is a verb. So this phrase has a noun and a verb. However, the subordinating conjunction after turns the entire construction into a dependent clause. So this dependent clause must link up with an independent clause. So here's a corrected version of the sentence. After the party starts, comma, I can relax. I can relax is an independent clause. It stands alone. The clause expresses a complete thought. Remember to separate a dependent clause and an independent clause with a comma when the dependent clause appears before the independent clause. Let's look at some different fragment types. Any fragment can be corrected by linking the fragment to an independent clause, one which comes before or after it and which makes sense within the paragraph. Let's look at subordinating conjunction and relative pronoun fragments. Here's an example. While I was waiting for my car to be repaired. How do you find this type of fragment? When proofreading a paper, pay attention to subordinating conjunctions and relative pronouns. These words turn subjects and verbs into dependent clauses. Identifying proper usage of dependent clauses can help in recognizing fragments. Some examples of subordinating conjunctions and relative pronouns include after, although, as, since, when, who, why, whichever. You may want to find a good table that lists all of the relative pronouns so you become more familiar with them. Here's how to correct subordinating conjunction and relative pronoun fragments. First, you can connect the fragment to the sentence that comes before or after. So here's a corrected sentence. While I was waiting for my car to be repaired, I read a magazine. Notice the use of the comma after the dependent clause. Here's another way to fix it. I had to ride the bus while the mechanic repaired my car. When a dependent subordinate clause comes after the independent clause, it is usually unnecessary to place a comma after that independent clause. Whether or not a comma is needed depends on the meaning of the sentence. A second way to fix subordinating conjunction and relative pronoun fragments. You can remove the subordinating conjunction or relative pronoun. So, for example, I was waiting for my car to be repaired. So now we've finished part one of sentence fragments. I hope you'll be able to recognize and repair fragments when you see them in the future.